Hey guys, welcome to the Spiritual Evolution Podcast. I'm your host, Andrea, and I'm so excited for the podcast I have for you guys. This is actually the first podcast that I'm doing the introduction first thing the next day because it was that amazing. And every podcast is that amazing, but like this one, we talk about past lives, my personal past lives. You guys are gonna see me get read by this incredible, amazing medium and psychic named Vanessa. You guys know her as Crystal Consciousness. She is an incredible human being and starseed lightworker, just like you and I, and she's here to help raise the vibration of the collective. And we get into amazing conversations to the point where we only got to 5 questions because it was that good. So she's going to be back again very soon, and I'm really excited to share this conversation with you guys. I hope you enjoy her energy as much as I do.
How your spiritual journey where that kind of began, or if it's been a lifelong thing for you, kind of your backstory on that.
Okay, so I was born pretty psychic. So my dad is my number one fan of my psychic stuff because I used to be a little girl, and I would tell him about his parents or his grandparents that died when he was 5. I'd be talking to them and telling them they're in the room, and my dad didn't even know them, so he'd check with his dad, and I'd be right, and he was just like, oh my God. And I just know when people are coming over, or when I was 3 or 4.
Right.
So my dad, He wasn't actually that big into psychic stuff. He's maybe it exists, maybe it doesn't, but I proved it to him with out of a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah. And without him even asking for it, it was just there.
And it's funny, I feel like psychicness runs in families because my dad has had some experiences himself where his parents took him to a city and he just knew where everything was, he recognized it. So I don't know if it's a past life or something like that. So he's I don't know, maybe you get your psychicness from me.
Oh my God, that's beautiful. That's really cool. Wow. So how was that growing up with with your family open-minded and then
my dad's pretty open-minded. My mom was pretty Christian, and she actually scared me away from my psychic gifts for a while. I was about 5, and I was in my room talking to myself. My mom comes in, she's like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm talking to my friend Ghosty is who I called her. And my mom was laughing at me. She's like, Ghosty's not real, come on. And I was as a 5-year-old, I was getting super mad that she wasn't understanding. And I was like, Ghosty is real. Ghosty, close the door. My door slammed shut. And then my mom proceeded to scream cry for 10 minutes. Wow. And she was like, oh my God, you're talking to demons. Never talk to her again. And she scared me. So I suppressed it for a while. And then when I was about 12, when I'd relax, my guides would kind of twinkle back in. If I was not nice to my brother, they'd correct me, and they'd be like, oh, you're loving, understanding. And so it kind of came back when I was 12-ish. And then I just kind of was in, high school. I didn't really care very much. And then in college, I started meditating all the time. And my psychic gifts started increasing and increasing. And I was in college when I met my spirit guide, Raina.
Yes, I've seen some stuff about. I want to ask you, I'm so excited. That's why so many things I'm excited to talk to you about, how how you met her and how she's influenced and impacted your life and stuff like that. Because your spirit guides can become your best friends.
Oh yeah.
And so yeah, how did that kind of happen?
So it was a whole year of meditating pretty solidly when I started getting really frustrated with my guides because I kept being okay, you talk to me. Who are you? And after about a year, I was pretty fed up with them not answering me back because they'd talk to me, but I'd be like, who are you? And they wouldn't answer. So one day I got home from class. I threw down my book bag. I was like, all right, guides, this is it. I'm going to meditate until you introduce yourselves. And I sat on my bed and I just started meditating. And I think I meditated for 45 minutes, I'm pretty sure. Because you don't know the time. It felt like a very long time. And all of a sudden, it was a quick moment. I wasn't on my bed anymore. I was standing with my eyes open in a really bright, big room. And it was just a quick moment. At first, I was like, this isn't my bedroom. And before I could even think, this like almost 6 foot tall blonde woman with blonde hair, this length, this color, walked in a blue, really pretty gown, walks up to me, or a blue dress, I guess. She walks up to me and goes, "Hi, I'm Raina," and puts her hand out for me to shake. And because she said that out loud, but because it's telepathic communication too, I could feel like her friendliness, and she was implying like, I'm your spirit guide, because it's telepathic communication too.
So
she
it's
said,
more than one thing.
Yeah. So she gave me like, she like sent me like a recognition of her, understanding of her, and it was all just a quick moment, because telepathic communication, you don't need time. Time doesn't really matter.
Right. It's like instant understanding. Yeah.
This was like a 4-moment encounter. I was like, oh my God, this is my room. She's like, "Oh, hi, I'm Raina," and puts her hand out for me to shake. And I freaked out. I jumped away from her and I freaked out. And all of a sudden I was back on my bed.
Wow.
And I was like, what just happened? Like, that was crazy, And I was just like, but I was like, also I was boggling my mind. I was like, how is my spirit guide like a 6 foot tall blonde supermodel? Like, she was so pretty and beautiful. And I was like, so I go and I go to my roommate from class, and I'm like, I was telling her about the encounter, and she was teasing me. She's like, "Oh, your spirit guide's blonde? Like, that's the most narcissistic thing I've ever heard." Like, you know what I mean? And I was like,
yeah.
Because I was expecting like so many things. That is not what I was expecting.
Right.
And at the time, this was like, because I'm 33. This was like, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago. And I never really thought about aliens. I was like, yeah, the universe is big, they're probably out there. I'd never really thought about them, and I'd never heard of Pleiadians when I met her.
Oh, okay. So
But,
yeah, I hadn't heard of them like until I started actively researching, because like I was really into all that aliens and stuff when I was in high school. But like I didn't really get Pleiadians, like the name didn't make sense till it was like later in life, like I understood it. You know what I mean? Like I didn't fully grasp the concept back then. But so then you found out like what kind of, like alien or entity.
Yeah, well, I actually, so then after that, it's funny, I don't know what she did to me in that encounter, but it's like she like sent me her vibration, so I recognized her. So then every time she talked to me, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's Raina." Like, I just instantly recognized her. It was many, many, many years of talking to her after that before she told me that we're from Era, a planet in the Pleiades. She didn't tell me that for years.
Okay, so you had no idea for years, like where?
Like, cool. She's just my blonde, tall spirit guide,
right?
And it's funny because I asked her after I found out that she's like Pleiadian and I'm a Pleiadian starseed. I was like, why didn't you just tell me then? And she told me that I wouldn't have taken it well back then.
Yes.
Also, not a lot of people like 12 years ago were like talking about the Pleiadians. I feel like it was very obscure. I know there's like people who wrote books and stuff, but like very obscure in the community. She was like, "I told you kind of when you needed to know." And I was like, okay. I mean, that's fair though. If she was like, "I'm an alien," I would have been like, okay.
Yeah, it's totally like our consciousness and our thought process on all of this kind of stuff is definitely evolving at a faster pace now that so many people are talking about it. And that's just how our human brain works.
Yeah, I'm curious, what's your spiritual journey?
Yeah, so I
conversation to hang out.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I was like, we can just kind of talk and see where the questions take us. Like,
perfect. Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, so I have like since I was really young have known that like I was like, there was a reason I was here, and that like I would lay in bed like, I know I'm gonna change the world, like I don't know how, and like I would get all giddy, like because I like would always picture myself doing something for the greater good. Like I always wanted to help the world, but like since I was so young, but I was raised in like a Catholic and like very strict household. I was sent to private school and all that. And so when I would like buy a deck of tarot cards, like my parents would, tell me I couldn't have them or whatever. So
Right.
it was, like I was always intrigued by it. And then, I just recently kind of got back into it after, going on a journey of trying, substances. And I had like this, I used to call it a premature awakening because like my brain wasn't ready for all the information that I got when I was 17. And like I went through kind of like a Kundalini awakening that I wasn't ready for, and it turned into like Kundalini psychosis. I missed a month of school. It was very terrifying. So I like shut everything down like after that, and like didn't really want anything to do with that. I kind of like numbed myself, and I'm 3 years sober now. I had life of addiction, and it was in a very toxic relationship for years, but all of that has kind of been like my lessons and like the stuff that I kind of came here to learn so that I could come out on the other side and help people see that you can make it through that stuff and like grow from it and evolve from it and learn from it. But it's interesting. It's like I am just finally starting to like realize like that I'm not just going to be able to help everybody that I see. And so it's like you're finally accepting like, oh, I can't like make anybody see it my way. And it's like I just started to accept that like maybe a year and a half ago, that like my parents aren't going to get it. That's okay. Like that's their journey, so it's like I've like kind of evolved a lot more, I'd say, over the last since I had my son, which makes sense. He's 2 now. And so like that really shifted my perspective. I'm no longer with my ex, stuff like that. And so I've really just kind of started to step back into my abilities. My clairaudience has started to come back because that was one that was like really intense for me when I went through my first like awakening, and it was like, substance induced, and there was, it was in 2012. So it was, 10 years ago, and it was very like there wasn't really any community, like there was no TikTok or any kind of, even on Instagram or anything, there was no like that I knew of a spiritual community that I could like ask questions about. So I felt alone, but I felt like I had to like change the world by myself, and it just kind of spiraled. But now that I'm finally like getting back into it, I'm like, I know that this is a part of my calling, and like I feel like I'm doing the right things by like, and I'm meeting the right people. And I've recently learned like I'm Andromedan, and I have a past life as a rainbow dragon, and all these things that are like making total sense. Like, and it's like really interesting because you always feel like connections to these things like your whole life, like, what I mean? Like I've always loved dragons. I've always loved, like, when I hear the name Andromeda, it's weird. My mom got my name from like, my parents say it was like Mary that called them, but I think it was like her higher self, like, or like my soul mother that called with my name, and like said, is Andrea, well, it's Andrea there yet? And now my friends have always said Andrea, and like I always had to correct people, and so I have like 2 different names. Like my family calls me Andrea, but my friends call me Andrea. It's like the weirdest thing. And so that's like something that I've definitely had to like grapple with, like with my guides calling me different things. Like my ancestors call me Andrea. And like, and it's like my friends, like my, I have a best friend that passed away who calls me Andrea. And so it's very interesting to like be on this journey and seeing other people and how they're like evolving too, and like everyone's on a different, in a different place in their journey, and that's like how we all learn.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, that's a little bit.
No, it's funny. Everyone I hear who has a Kundalini awakening experience, it seems a lot like psychosis, to be honest, and it's really hard to deal with and kind of get your vibration back to like baseline. I'm scared it's gonna happen to me at some point because it always sounds terrifying. But
yeah,
for the greater good. What's funny I'm a psychic medium, as I'm sure you've seen, or
yes.
I'm a professional psychic medium. I've been with it for 2 years. And when I first started, I didn't really know a lot about like schizophrenia and stuff and people who go through psychosis. And I encountered, I've had a few clients, long-term clients who are schizophrenic. And it's really changed my perspective of what I think schizophrenia is, to be honest. And before I was like, oh yeah, you have like mental, your chemicals are imbalanced. But what's funny is all my schizophrenic clients are really, really psychic.
I was just going to say, what's weird? You say that. I had my best friend in high school. She was She was a schizophrenic, and she had her episodes and stuff, and I would always be so intrigued by it because I felt like she was connected to something more. But it was like sometimes like it was good, sometimes it was bad. It felt like it was like you're getting like a lot of the negative of like whatever, like, you know, tell me what you think.
Okay, so this I feel like this is crazy to say, but this is the only conclusion I can come to. Just because they're so psychic. One of my very schizophrenic clients, one time, this is what really started changing my mind. One time, she's like, "Can you ask my guides this question?" In my head, I asked the question, and they answered me back. And she's like, I think I just heard this." And she asked the question, and then she said their exact answer back verbatim to me. And I was like, oh my God. Honestly, I just think that schizophrenic people are just tuned a little bit differently. So you're kind of picking up a frequency that they just can't control it. You know what I mean? You're a little bit in this world. You're a little bit in the fourth astral.
Yes, that's what I was going to say, the fourth dimension.
Which is why, yeah, I think that. And I've talked to Raina and I've talked to my guides about it. Because it's funny, because most psychics, okay, most people, say this is like the range of the third dimension, fourth dimension's up here. Most people are born somewhere in here. I feel like a lot of naturally born psychics, you're just naturally born with your genetics and your attunement and your vibration. You're just naturally born a little bit more here. So it's not very hard for you to ever so slightly change your frequency up a little bit to get into that spiritual realm. And also, I think with meditation and practice, anyone can do it, to be honest.
Me too. I do too.
I think schizophrenics are born about here as well. But something about your genetics, your tuning, you just, it's like, there's a phrase where it's like, psychics kind of swim through the waters. Schizophrenics are drowning. They can't. Yeah. It's like you can't turn it off. And you know what really sucks?
That's how I felt.
Yeah. And
I couldn't turn it off, yeah.
Is right here is lower astral. So I feel like when you just dip into the astral without meaning to, if you aren't like monitoring your vibration, putting up protections, trying to raise higher than that, you're encountering lower astral beings and they'll mess with you, and it can be really scary.
Absolutely.
Interesting, right?
That is like it's very crazy to me that you bring this up, because I just thought about this like 2 days ago, because I was like talking to my best friend and like mentor, you know, like he wants to bring me to a shaman, and you know, eventually I want to do an ayahuasca journey to really like fully unlock everything. But it's like, I know I need to take my time and I need to be ready, because there is a lot of there's a lot of negativity in the world. Like there's obviously negativity in the energy of like you know what I'm saying, like of the astral too. And so, and I thought about this, and then I thought about how, you know, my best friend had these things that like she would encounter and she would experience, but like I've always had this thought of like schizophrenia isn't just like a mental thing. Like it's more than that. It's gotta be more than that, especially since like the evidence you're stating, like.
Exactly. It literally changed my mind. It 100% changed my mind. I was like, how would I explain this to TikTok? They're going to like roast me alive for being like, oh, you're like making light of a disorder. But you know what's funny is cultures like tribes and ethnic cultures and things like that who practice a lot of meditation and have a big connection to the spirit world, they all view schizophrenia as a spiritual capacity, all of them. And I'm like, all right, I see where you're coming from, guys, to be honest, after my wealth of experience.
That is insane. Yes, and I've also seen things about how when they see somebody that's going through like schizophrenia in those cultures, they'll take them. I literally saw a video about it like maybe a month ago, and they'll take them and they'll teach them about it, because it's like if you're born and you're able to like go back and forth between like the lower, it's like you don't ever have any guidance. Obviously you're not going to know how to protect your energy if you're not being taught how to protect your energy. And then that's why they prey on them, and then they get labeled with this thing like that's how you are. And so now it's even easier, because you're automatically you're conditioned to think that I have this thing. It's like, really, it's crazy. That's interesting.
You know, it's funny. I was going to say, I know you say you're Andromedan, but you've got some Orion connections as well.
So I only know of and that's funny that you say that, because I was going to also ask about like the idea of starseeds and how so my perspective is like, if I was able to reincarnate a million times, I would try a bunch of different things. Like everyone has their original, like maybe, but like
For
I think
sure.
we all kind of are like almost like mutts. You know what I mean? Like I think we
Oh.
all have like the experience.
100%. And you know what's so funny is a lot of the Andromedans we talk to, like the Zene, the Zenite, the ones Alex Collier talks to, they're Lyrans, to be honest. When Lyra was destroyed, they went to Andromeda constellation, not the galaxy. So you know it's well I could just take a look real quick for you and
That'd be
see.
awesome.
Okay, so I don't know what this planet's called or the star's called. It's above Orion-ish to the side. I actually don't know what this planet's called. So, but you had some lives there. You've had some lives in Orion, Sirius. You have a lot of Pleiadian connections in your life. I don't know if I'm actually seeing Pleiadian lives, actually.
That's
And
interesting.
wait, let me see. Yeah, I feel like actually I'm seeing a lot of your dominant energy is Sirius Orion area, to be honest.
Interesting.
How do
Okay,
you,
I'm gonna have,
how do you feel about that?
I'm gonna have to look into it because
Okay, actually, they corrected me. You have had Pleiadian lives. They corrected me.
okay.
So you just jumped around. You've done a lot of different things.
That's how I see it. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Wow.
I am seeing also a little bit of time spent on Mars
Oh, really?
and Maldek.
That is crazy. Oh, wow. There was like something about I used to get the Mars card a lot in my Starseed deck. I'm like got tears in my eyes. Like when you started, I like started to get emotional because like I've been like asking for more like clarity and more information. Yeah, and then like I'm just super grateful, girl.
Of course. Do you want to know we can go into the whole record if you want. So when Lyra was destroyed, you ended up going to Andromeda constellation, and you were a Zenite. You were there for a very, very, very long time. So let's call it maybe probably at least about a third of your lives. And then you're kind of you were very involved with the Andromedan Council. And then the Orion Wars started. And you, because you're such like, it's almost like you're a freedom fighter. It's like you want to fight for truth and that sort of thing, and like fight to help people and kind of go where you're needed. You have this like big, like, I need to protect people. I want to help as much as possible. That's also why you came to Earth.
That's why I felt like that as a child. Wow.
Went to the Orion Sirius area and Pleiades, and you incarnated kind of where you were needed. And you were all involved in those wars, which were like very long wars. After those wars kind of died out, it's okay. I'm stand corrected. You actually spent a lot of time in the Pleiades before you came, and then you were involved in some of the. It's funny. I see a lot of different incarnations for you. You've been a gray type being. You've been this brown type being that I don't know what they are. You've been a lot of like humanoid type beings, and then you ended up going with, I think, a Pleiadian colony to Mars and Maldek, and then you were kind of settling there, and that's where you end up having a lot of dragon connections. There's a lot of dragons that were on Maldek.
Oh God.
And then at some point, you came down in Atlantean times to Atlantis after Maldek was destroyed.
Wow.
So yeah, that's what I do.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Like I'm so giddy right now. Like I feel like
you have so many different galactic families and so many different soul origins. I think it's normal to have like a few. I was Lyran originally. I went to Pleiades. I went to Osiris for a couple lives, and then I went back to Pleiades, and then I came here. So that's like 3. You are like a little bit of an adventurer. You also, your guides really want to say you like to go where you're needed, if that makes sense. You like to go. I always make people cry.
It's just like crazy.
You know what? There's something about hearing something that's so true and it resonates with your soul, it just makes you cry. There's just something there. It's like a weird response. I know I do it all the time. I make everybody cry. Like half my sessions,
it's a good cry. It's good. It's a good girl. I'm gonna have to get a full session. Like, yo, that was amazing. I know, like that could be a lot more like you know, like that just blew my mind. It just made so much sense. Like, because I've always felt like that, and then when I, you know, like the last few months, I've been like, you know, I know I'm supposed to do the shadow work course for people, you know, with different types of addictions, whether it be shopping, gambling, you know what I'm saying? What I went through, which was opiates. Like,
while I was talking, sometimes it's funny. Your guides are so chatty. They chat.
I am too.
They like to interrupt. They like to interrupt a lot. Like some guides are like more laid back. Your guides are
Sounds
like, no.
me.
They also mentioned that you're shadow worker kind of in this life. And that's what you kind of choose to go through. They also want to say that the progress you've made in the last like 3 years has been like astronomical. You've raised vibration a ton. And you're really doing a lot more of your life's mission. You have some money blocks that come up, and they're trying to get you to work on your abundance blocks. But besides that, you're really kind of going in the direction they want.
That's like, but seriously, like I can't even like thank you enough for this. Like seriously, I needed this because like
on your podcast, I'm happy to read for you a little bit.
Yeah, that really like just made me like I know that I'm doing what I need to be doing, but it's like it's nice to like hear it directly from like someone that you've been doing this your whole life, and it's like I mean I know that I'm here to like make a difference. It's just like it's hard when it's like I don't have the degrees or any of that stuff. I just have the life experience, and like my therapist made me feel like real small to the point where like I don't like this was the third time I talked to her.
I like your therapist. I don't like her. She's
it was like it was a new bitch. I hadn't even ever met her.
She used to like fight you on stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah, she did.
Like
she
push
did.
back and stuff. Your guides don't like her.
No, I was seeing black orbs around my phone the whole phone call. That's why I had to stop seeing her. I have a new one that I'm about to start seeing.
Austere, intense, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, she's over her job, to be honest.
That's what it was. It was jealousy. She like really felt some type of way about my ambitions. I was like, okay, bye. Like it was, yeah.
You're gonna find a new therapist. I feel like a guy therapist is coming into your awareness who's like really open and hearted and loving.
It's funny. My best friend is a guy, and he introduced me to the new therapist that I'm supposed to be, who's Jessica, who's supposed to be like that's his therapist, and like
Jessica? Okay.
So I mean, but he's a guy, and he's like my therapist right now.
Sorry, it's just usually I do this like my eyes closed with blackout curtains. So this is like my I'm super I'm the most accurate when I go into trance.
Right. I know. I would love to do like a full. That would be so cool.
I do it. It's funny. I go into trance for like 20 minutes before our session. I have blackout curtains in the middle of the day because I need it to be dark to maintain that connection.
Yeah, you don't have to be like guided. I love it. I'm like really, really grateful to connect with you, girl.
I love you.
So, yeah, like that's exciting to think about. You know, like that, like my of you know a bunch of different incarnations makes sense to me. Like you know, it's you know that like I'm and like the shadow worker thing, and that's like I've been imposter syndrome. So it's like been something of like I know I'm supposed to do this course, working on the course, and it's like I know I have to invest in my business, and it's my block right now, and it's when I'm ready, I'm never gonna fully be ready, and I know that's one thing I have to just like take the leap, and like I'm prepared to. I want like that therapist had like making me feel like I'm not healed or something, and like so now I'm really like trying to down on like, my own healing, even though I know that like I just feel like time's running out, and I know that's not the case, but like I don't know. It's just like I know everything's gonna happen in divine timing no matter what. It's just I'm super indecisive. I don't know why I chose Libra sun life. I mean, I get it, but I don't get it. Like, I hate the fact that like it's so hard for me to make the choice about some like big decisions, because it's like I know where, but I don't know. It's like I know emotions are pulling me, but like logically.
Yeah.
But
Actually, I wanted to make a correction. You have a guy coming to your life that's going to be like supportive for you and very like understanding, supportive, really warm energy. You need someone who's kind of very grounded to balance you out.
yeah.
That person kind of coming into your life kind of.
That makes me very but yes, I definitely am like, my ADHD is crazy. I'm very strong.
To be honest, with the thing with ADHD, I think a lot of psychics have ADHD. It's just like you're kind of just in this realm, and it's it's also high vibration. Just holding a high vibration. Don't do like yourself in center. It can get kind of overwhelming. I think like people have accused me of being ADHD before. My friend.
Right.
The more I started learning how to ground and center myself, it just went away. If that makes sense.
Yeah, if you remember, like when you to feel that way, to like, if I remember, and that's what I had to do. I was like, I had to figure out how to like turn my energy down. To imagine a dial in my head and like a volume and like turning it down when it happened. Like second time happened when I was older, and like it started happening again because I was doing like stupid again, and I had to like take myself out. You know what I mean? I just couldn't grasp, and I was kind of letting the event like without me. But so yeah, like how do you like, ground yourself every day? Like, what did you have like practice?
Whenever I meditate with clients, I always imagine I have like 40-foot roots to connect with Gaia, and I push them down. I connect and I connect until you feel like you connect with her. And when you connect with her, you notice it. It always gives me like a woo, like a because her energy is ridiculous. So that really helps. Funny, I think the more grounded you are, the more higher you go up, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's really important to ground regularly. I'm really into yoga. Anything that pulls a lot of people, especially psychics, ADHD people, whatever, our energies in our top chakras a lot.
Yeah.
If you do things that pull the energy down to the lower chakras, like movement, dance, yoga, just moving that energy down into the body focus instead of mind focus a little bit really evens people out. I've told a billion clients that. That's something I actually heard from spirit. I talked to some guide. But yeah, if you have like movement practice, it sounds so simple, but it just moves the energy into the body. It gives you kind of a balanced energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, and I didn't even realize that's what I've been doing when I've been doing yoga. Like I've been doing stretching. I mean, I guess it's yoga. It's a 10-minute practice every morning and every night. And I not do it with intention for grounding because I didn't put two and two together with that. I was doing it like meditation because like I need to like my body is so stiff. I'm always so anxious. But yeah, like it's important to remember like to be embodied, and like it's very true. Like that's how I am. And I've even heard the like Kundalini awakening where it's like you awaken from like, these chakras like first, basically, and it's almost like you have like that could mean it could be like any psychic really. If you're already awakened in these ones before you feel like embodied in your body, like you're more happy in these ones.
Right. You said you have deep questions for me. I'm kind of intrigued. Yes. I want to know.
How did you like I think we kind of talked about this a little bit, but how did you realize that you could get past life and heal? Like how did you realize that you could do this for yourself and other people?
It was about 4 years ago. Psychic gift went from like 5, 6 to like 10. It just changed, went up. I don't know, just a vibrational shift. I started having a little bit of like wine at parties. Funny, when I drink, it's like I have a filter. Like if I don't want to read for people, I don't have to. But if I have a little bit of alcohol, and I don't drink lot. Like, I like wine, you know, I like kombucha. Drink filters is really gone. And so I was being at parties with people, and all of a sudden, I was just downloading information from the guides. Like, I do it normally, like in my day to day. Like sometimes I'll walk past some guides, will be like, "She's pregnant." I'll be like, "Thanks, guides. I don't need to know that. That's not necessary." I just started downloading information. Really happened. I started downloading galactic information first. So I'd be talking to someone just at a party. Sometimes, like, I met a guy at a party once. This happened like 4 years ago. He's me, you know, nice guy. And his grandmother just came in, and she's like, "I don't like your girlfriend." And just like berating me until I said something. And I was like, "Do you have an Italian grandmother, Noni?" Oh my God, she wants to talk to you. And it was like so embarrassing. Like, yeah, I mean, I guess when I drink, so I don't drink a lot because unless I'm around like very conscious people, I have vibes good because I have no filter. And then I started downloading, started picking up people's past lives, and it just happened. I wasn't even trying to, it just started happening, where I'd start getting like, my guides, they show like a movie, so they'll start, and they'll just show me what happens, and the amazing thing, it's the most amazing thing I think I do in my psychic work, because people often ask me questions, and then I ask the guides, they'll show me a relevant life, and it's so relevant. Every past life I bring up is so relevant. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm like emotional again.
I know. Can I give you one of my favorite examples?
Of course.
So I have this woman, and when you sign up the website, I choose your name, your number. It's not a Zoom. I don't call yet because it's too distracting for me. I have to maintain a trance state. So I get on the phone with her, and she's not like very in a mood. She's like, "Hey, I want to let you know." I'm like, "Hey, like, let me talk to your guides." She's like, "I just want you to know I booked a session because I have not been able to find a relationship. That's the whole reason I booked it. That's all I want to talk about." And I was like, "Okay, all right, sure." So I asked the guides why she can't get a relationship, and they start showing a past life. So I was like, "Hey, they're showing me this past life. But they're usually relevant." And she's like, "Yes." So it's out in Scandinavia. She's female, and I've noticed from a lot of people's Scandinavian past lives that some females train like warriors, like men do. And so she starts training in her village and learning to fight. She loves it. She's like all about it, very aggressive. And she grows up with this guy, and then they train together, and they end up falling around like, you know, 18. They end up in love, get like married. But like in like bike, I think this is like bike times. So, you know, 1400. They end up falling in love, and they're like bonded, and they end up having a bunch of kids. Then it flashes, and they have a great relationship. They're like best friends. They do everything together. They both love training. Like, they're just besties. It's a great relationship. Like, okay, this is nice. So far, she's liking it. Flash forward to about 28, 30. Gets word that her mom actually lives in a village that's walk. Is actually sent as a girl to this village to train. It's the village right next to them. She gets word that her mom is sick, her mom might die. So she's like, "My mom's sick. I'm in the day's journey to visit her. I want to see her before she dies." And he's like, "That's cool. I hate kids." So she leaves, and she starts doing the journey, and over a mountain. As she starts getting the mountain, there's a snowstorm or something like that. It's like a crazy storm. It's really dangerous, especially if you're yourself.
Yeah.
So she walks like almost half the day. She gets to the point where she's like, "I can't do it. It's too dangerous. I'm gonna have to walk back." So she walks back to the village. It's like probably like 6 hours back. She gets back to the village. It's nighttime. She left in the morning. Yeah. It's nighttime, and she walks in, and her husband is she catches her husband in bed, her partner in bed, with this younger brunette chick. It's probably like 18. Oh my God. And her rage, she grabs one of their knives and she stabbed them both to death. And I was like, "Oh my goodness, so sorry, this past life started out so nice. I wasn't expecting it to take this turn." And the woman started laughing. And she's like, "I'll tell you this. I married my college sweetheart. We were best friends. We started a business together, and around 30, where we were friends. We did it together. We were the best of friends. Like, I trusted him so much. It was like everything with him every single night. I would never suspect anything. She's like, I was a couple years ago when I was about 30. I had to go on a business trip for our business. So I get to the airport, and my flight canceled. Thing. And I'm calling my husband, calling him. He's not answering. Drive back home. She catches him in bed with their brunette neighbor, who's like a younger girl. And she's like, I don't know what happened. I don't know what came over me, but I just saw red. I chased them both on the street almost naked. And I got in the car and I tried to run them over. And I was like, but she's like, did it away from me. And she's like, ever since then, I divorced him. I took half the business, but I was just devastated. And she's like, I haven't been able to find a relationship. And I was like, oh shit, that's great. She's like, I fantasize about killing him all the time. I do. Like no holds barred. She's like, I fantasize about killing them both all the time because they're together now. And so after, like, this is great. This is good. So I asked her guides. I was like, why did you guys show me this life? And they showed me after she shot them both to death, she was immediately in the most like deep sorrow, regret her whole life. She actually never was with another partner or slept with anyone for the rest of her life because she didn't feel like she deserved it. She was just alone. She was devastated. And she always regretted that she killed him. It's just like she was rage. And she was so bad for the rest of her life. Her guide said that she picked that same soul partner to go through the same thing because in this life she had to make a decision to forgive and not kill him.
Yeah.
And they said she's not able to move on to the relationship until she ultimately forgives him. Like, that's crazy. I don't know, man. I was like, that was just not what I was expecting.
Yeah, right. I think I remember. I love watching videos, but that's a intense story. I remember that when you said that. I was thinking, like, that's so cool to like think about, like like, you know what I mean, like how one life goes into the next life. Like,
it's crazy.
It's all connected. It is.
Tell you more. You might have seen this. It's one of my recent favorites. I was talking to this girl, American girl, and she, earlier in the session, oh, you're a writer. And she's like, I am a writer. I was like, cool, your guide told me you're a writer. And they started taking this past life. In this past life, she's like a 12-year-old boy in India. Funny, because most lives they show me an adult, because that's usually what we talk about. But this past where I was like, oh, you're younger, which isn't typical. I was like, oh, you're younger, you're a little boy in India. And you love a picture where the women are all cooking all day, and it's like the moms, the aunts, the daughters, and the men go do stuff. I don't know because I didn't see, but you love hanging with the women in the kitchen all day, and you love cooking, and they tell stories and they're fun and they hang out. And you loved that, really loved the culture. Yeah. Your dad did not like that at all because he's like, it's women's work. You shouldn't even hang with them. You're doing other things. They're just women. His dad signed him up to join this group, religious men, and they like travel, and it's like you devote your life to spirituality. So his dad signed up as well, and he's really sad because he's gonna leave his mom, his sister, his aunt, and he's gonna sign up for this religious group, and they like travel and stuff. And I was like, they're trying to say the name of the group because what's the name? I've never heard it before. My guides have to like out if it's a word that's in my memory, but it's easier for me. But if it's not, like sound.
Oh, that's interesting.
I was like, it sounds like and the sadhu, and I was like, yeah, that's it. Okay. And I told her this, and she starts just like she starts crying. Mm-hmm. I'm like, are you crying? Like, what's going on? She said that 2 weeks earlier she had a story about a 12-year-old boy who was joining sadhu in India, and she's like, I'll send you the story. I just wrote this 2 weeks ago. He's sad to leave his mom, and she's like, I've been obsessed with the sadhu since was a kid. And I was like, I've never even heard of the sawdew. But
Me
I was
either.
describing what they were showing me. I was like, they eat really plainly, they travel, people kind of put them up. It's very like humble, almost like monk life. Like, yeah, that's the sawdew. And I had to look them up after, and I was like, fuck, I'd never heard of them. Sorry.
No, yeah, you're good.
But I love this story because she had written the story 2 weeks earlier. And people are really having past lives come up into your consciousness. People are writing songs about them, writing stories about them. They're coming through your spirit. Like, a lot of us are getting a lot of like unlocked information that's coming through.
Yeah, I have had like dragons come through in my paintings and stuff, and like dragon before I ever even was anything about lives, like stuff like that. Yeah, and it's interesting because it's like it makes you wonder about, you know, like if it's always kind of like that, if it's not always, but if how often it is, you know, people keep remembering like taking something out of their records without realizing it and making it into something maybe more extravagant or like whatever. But it's so intriguing to think about.
One of my favorite friends on TikTok is a dragon. His name's Moni. Mario Hard Hand.
Yes. Yeah. I wanted to ask you about that ayahuasca journey as well, because I'm so intrigued by, like, I've been wanting to like go. I believe he's in Costa Rica. I want to say, maybe not though. It's his name is El Dragon. He works with Aubrey Marcus and like the Fit for Service crew, and he, like, I just felt very, very called to energy. But I want to hear your experience. You want to tell a little bit about that?
Sure. All I have to say about ayahuasca is when it's the time, it calls you. It's been calling me for a long time. I do it like March, I think, and then something where I couldn't do it at that ceremony. And then my buddy Moni was like, do you want to come to an ayahuasca ceremony with me in Utah? It was the next month. And I was like, yes, absolutely. I do. Absolutely. And it's funny because me and Moni talk lives, call each other, we talk about spiritual stuff because we're geeks. We love gab and chat. I love him. I've actually met in person. It doesn't even matter. Like so many TikTok call him like about spiritual stuff. Like, we're friends, but I actually got to meet him in person.
Yeah.
It's amazing ayahuasca retreat, and we did 2 nights of ceremony, and it was f***ing wild. I don't know if you had any experience with psychedelics. I love psychedelics. I have done mushrooms probably 100 times. Love them. Take them and meditate, actually.
Yeah, I microdose every day. So, and I take them sometimes more than that.
California sober. I'm about it. Like,
yeah. Yes.
But yeah, my ayahuasca experience, I think the craziest thing that happened was second cup on the first day. I've done DMT once, and it like catapulted this geometry dimension where it's and just pretty geometry, and it was really quick. Yes. Second cup I take, all of a sudden I've never had anything so hallucinogenic. I've taken like heroic doses of mushrooms. I've made mushroom tea, and it's you hallucinate your face off. Don't get me wrong. Ayahuasca is like that. Like, it's a lot like when you've taken like 5 mushrooms, more.
Right. It's more. That's why it blows my mind. Like, what is more?
Oh, it's girl. Then you're like, I'm not even in this room anymore. So all of a sudden I was in the third dimension. So I'm in this it's, and then there's just really pretty orange, white, or orange and yellow and green geometry in front of me. I was like, oh cool, I'm back in the geometry dimension. This is sick. And I'm hanging out there for 5 minutes, like taking it all in because it's intense. Yeah. And then I noticed the being in front of me, and I was like, hello. And he's like, hello. And I was like, who are you? And he said that we are a higher dimensional expression of, we facilitate healing of ayahuasca as a tool on your dimension. And I was like, oh, so I'm in a dimension. Interesting. He looked like kind of like an insectoid being made of geometry.
I feel like I I've seen that, and I have a deck that's like got all these different stars and galactic races, and it was kind of like a apprentice type being that I was like, but
yeah, I've seen a bunch of ayahuasca art since, because I was like, I want to find what he looks like. Everybody draw them, very different interpretations. So I started talking to them, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know what to do. I was like, I don't know, higher being. I was just like, that's cool. Hope it's going good.
yeah, right.
Idiot. I was like, I don't know what to say. I was like, okay, but I meant it. So I was like, good. I hope it's going good. And he said, we do not think in terms of good or bad. We think in terms of harmonics, or harmony. So he explained to me and showed me on a telepathic level that ayahuasca is harmonizing your own energy field, because disharmony in the energy field creates like weakness. It's the ayahuasca harmonizes your energy field, and then everyone always talks about when you do ayahuasca with people, it like bonds you. He showed me that he's actually harmonizing the whole group together, harmonizing everyone's harmonic to be in perfect vibrational resonance with each other. And so in that moment, he was showing me that we're all being like a symphony, we're all being harmonized together. And I was like, that's crazy. That was just spectacular.
It's something so like you can't even really put it into words, but like that you did very well. Like that sounds like like everything frequency. There's a perfect sense.
100%. You're having a lot of sense, because I've talked to a lot of spirit guides. My Arcturian guides sat me down. They didn't sit me down. They pulled me out of body. My Arcturian guides like to pull me out of body onto their. They have a mothership above Earth. They have body when I'm meditating sometimes. I'm used to it because Raina does it, so now I'm like kind of used to it, but I'm kind of not. It's still always a little bit jarring. I'm not gonna lie. The first time they did it to me, I came back and I went and cried to my fiance. They pulled me out of my body and lectured, and he's like, are you wanting to connect with them more? Like, don't you ask? So I was like, yeah, but like,
yeah, right.
I looked at them once, and they pulled me onto the ship, and it's usually like 3 representatives, and these are the Blue Octans, and they were like, we don't like how you lie. And I was like, I don't lie. What are you talking about? They showed me that when you lie or you're not being authentic, it fucks up energy. It's like energy is this perfect geometry that's really beautiful, really congruent. Lie or even say negative stuff messes up and like there's the geometry. It's not perfect. It's not in congruence, and it messes up your energy field. It makes you weaker. Your energy you give out is weaker, and it makes you more susceptible to negative stuff.
Wow.
And like, but it's funny. It was very humbling. I was like, we don't like how you lie. It's not good for your energy. Showed me. I was like, I don't lie. Like, try me. Like, I don't lie. And they were like, then they showed me every instance I've messed with my energy field. So I was supposed to hang out with a friend. I laid in bed all day. I didn't do anything. And then I texted. I was like, oh my god, so sorry. That's lying. That's lying. That's lying. One time I was drinking wine and I got a little exaggerated or verbose. Lying. That they showed me all the things where you're not authentic. They showed me how it messed up my energy field. And they're like, for the things you do, you need to have a solid energy field. You need to protect yourself. You need to come off and hold a high vibration. You need this perfect geometrical resonance. Hold the vibrational color and downloads we're giving you. So anyway, give me that. So now I do not lie at all. I do not exaggerate. I do not do white lies. I am, if I'm like, does my outfit? Yes, it does. It's better to be honest, because if you're not, that I think intrinsically, because like people like to ask in things like, what is universal truth? Is universal justice? Is it an empirical truth that is a reality, or is it just an interpretation because all cultures do it differently? I think that not lying is an objective truth because it creates disharmony in your energy field. I think that's why almost all cultures being dishonest is bad for you, because it really is.
It is, yeah. process, and that really does make sense, because it's like when I had this experience just the other day, and it like, my ex-sides are coming through. I didn't want that, and instead of being angry or negative about it, I just completely passion and it like completely like shut them out, and it felt so incredible. Like my whole body was tingly, like it was intense, and it was like, makes sense. Like if I had what you resist like that, like, and when you're not authentic with yourself, or you're not, like the lies we tell ourselves. Like I remember, like my friend would tell me about like the lies you tell yourself. And I was like, what do you mean? Like he didn't explain it, like you just explained. And that really, like, that makes all of the sense. I love that.
So you have a lot of native past lives, actually.
Yes. Yeah.
Are you aware of them?
I know that I have Aztec, like ancestors, but
I consider native Canada down, to be honest, because they all, when I past lives, hundreds of years ago, it's all the same. But yeah, you have a guy.
What's their name? They have a name.
Names are hard. I can go for them.
Give me their name then.
I can send them out.
No, it's okay. No, I'm just curious, like, what else to know? What do they want me to know?
You have a native life, and I feel like with your playing out karma with someone you with in this native life. So let me tell you about baby daddy.
Sure.
Wait, I don't know. There's like a really mean ex before baby daddy. The one we're talking about? The really mean ex.
That's daddy, I would think.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Give me a second. Your native life with him. Your female life. He was male. He was very good looking, very tall, but very serious, very intense. That makes sense. He was a really good warrior. And it's funny because you have a warrior spirit, you're really like that, like, warrior thing. Maybe not in this life, but in that life, like very high status, like with the best warrior. But
that's how it felt when I was.
Yes. So anyway, you were a pretty girl. You came from a family. It's funny, they still had like higher.
It's all the same theme.
I know, because you grew up kind of rich, right?
Not rich. Even. I just went to private school. Like I lived. Like I didn't even. Not even. Like kind of.
Last, right? You grew up poor.
Right.
I got that before. Like you from a pretty decent family setup, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and he always like that was like that's weird.
Yes. So he was kind of more of a well-off person. I think you were a daughter of a priest. They were really considered esteemed. They had a lot of wealth. He was like top warrior, and he was like best looking, tallest, fittest. And so you guys paired up with each other in that life. And you were like, oh, you always felt like you were the lucky one. Like, oh, he's so cool. Like, he's the best. Yeah. And he always felt that way too. Oh, you're lucky to be with me. You can't get any, like, you can't get
That's
any.
how he was. Oh my God.
I know. So anyway, I just want to come through and say this past life because it feels so relevant to what you're dealing with now. I think it's an Aztec-y life. You had 2 kids with them. But ultimately, you just started getting abusive. Like, you just start tearing you down. He didn't speak all the time. It wasn't always hitting. It was just like, you're not good enough for me. And he just really exacerbated, you're not good enough for me. And he's just kind of like, his emotions, they're like there or not, shut him off. Like crazy.
Narcissist. Yeah, like, no. I'm not trying to, like, shit, but sociopathic tendencies was something his therapist used, and he told me about it. Like,
yes. So,
I'll probably take this part out, but, like...
Hey, sorry.
No. I want to talk about this shit. It's like
for this. But he just very narcissistic tendencies. He just didn't even give 2 fucks with his kids either. Like he was always just doing his own thing to be around. He's like, yeah, he just didn't care. He just said
same exact person.
Let's ask your guides why you went through that experience.
Right. Yeah. Why? Yeah. What am I healing now?
That life, the way you got out of it was you got pretty sick around like 34, 35, but that was actually a decision from your higher consciousness. You wanted to leave this relationship because there was really no leaving, and you were miserable. So you kind of took that way out. You got sick, and you didn't get better, and so you did 34, 35, and that was your way of getting out of that life because you just felt so powerless. A lot of this life and a lot of the last few years have been you taking your power back, and that is the lesson you had to learn, to take your power back, to be okay with being alone, to know your worth, to speak up, especially speak up. In a theme of the last like 3 years, speak up. That's why you started your podcast. That's why you're doing this. That's why you're sharing.
I know, I won't give it out. But like, yeah, wow. That's why you said like economical. I had chills when you said that earlier about the years, and I knew that there was one life for years that my friend Avery said, but he didn't really give me details because it brings up a lot of emotions, a lot, and like I know I want to, no, not in a bad way. It's just like he's my friend. He's trying to like protect me, but it's like I need to know why, like what the point is of like why I felt such a connection to that person anyway.
Right. And you've had past lives with them. And also it's funny about him saying you're warriors. I see so many life for your warriors. Like you're a warrior in the wars, you're a warrior in Sirius. Like you like to fight for the light. It's like, and you are protective is like crazy. That's probably the only thing that really sets you off, like someone messing with you or the people you love.
Yeah, and I always feel super divinely protected too. Like I've had a lot of close calls, to say the least. Like, you know what I mean? Like I got hit by a car. I almost got hit by a snowplow in the same year. Like it was crazy. That year was crazy.
Can we talk a little bit about the Pleiadians?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what's funny is I just read this question. It's always like that. I swear the synchronicities just get more and more. So what are your thoughts on like the idea of like disclosure and like if it's already happened and we just don't even like people didn't even realize it, like and how the Pleiadians and how they play and how the Pleiadians like play into that, because I'm sure that they do.
So disclosure's happening. It's been happening for the last like 30 years really solidly. I think it depends on how quick humanity is going to be ready for it, because the Pleiadians are very conscious. Like they don't want to alarm people, and they're bringing people in slowly, and like all the Andromedans, everyone. I think in our lifetime we're going to see real extraterrestrials, human ones at first. The Alpha Centaurians, I think, are going to come first. The Pleiadians, we're going to see them on like national TV talking to us. I think it's going to happen within the next few years, is what Raina tells me. 3 years, I think, pretty solidly.
Holy crap.
It's happening. It's happening. We can't stop it.
Right.
But yeah, another really funny misconception people have about the Pleiadians is that they're light beings. They are flesh and blood beings, at least the fifth dimensional Pleiadians I come from on Era. They're fifth dimensional humans, so they're a different frequency than us. Like if we saw them, they look like ghosts. But we're moving our vibration slowly to the fifth dimension.
Right.
Because if we just jumped, our bodies couldn't handle it. We're taking on more light. We're now in the fourth, and now we're moving kind of to the fifth, if that makes sense.
Yes, it definitely makes sense as to like all like the solar flares and like the Schumann. Like I wanted to talk to you about all of those things too, but like I want to talk about the Pleiadians and like how they have like have they like been preparing Earth, like has this been like a thing that they've been like preparing Earth for a while, or is it kind of just like?
Yes, it's funny because we've kind of been in a temporal war. So I come from Era about almost 400 years in the future. The reason why we're having this ascension process now is because the Greys, the Orion Greys, and the Reptilians. I don't know if we can talk about this on your podcast.
Yeah, I have a question about it. So yeah.
Greys and the Reptilians started kind of, what they like to do is they like to insert their genetics and kind of hybridize everyone so that they rule, and they can, the Orion Greys, they have a hive mind, a hive AI, that they're all like robots too. Like they all just connect to that, and it rules them and controls them. They started hybridizing the humans so that we're all connected to the AI hive. And so they started just taking over planet Earth. And this was the turning point that the Andromedan Council saw, because when I was growing up in the Pleiades, it started out kind of nice, and then it got really horrible, where the Orion Greys and the Reptilians just started taking over. There wasn't no more balance of good and bad. It was just, they were taking over everything. They were taking over whole planets. They were killing people. They were destroying stuff. And it got to a point where it was so bad that the Andromedan Council was like, okay, we need to stop this. We need to go back in time about 400 years. And one of the big turning points was Earth, because Earth humans are super special. We're made up of like 22 different alien races. So being made of all those different alien races, we have so many different crazy abilities. We're so powerful beyond even we could even imagine, that we're a very special race. And so having us on board made it so it's just like lights out for the galaxy.
Okay. Wow.
So I volunteered to come back 400 years in time, and we were going to force Earth to go to fifth density, because the Orion Greys and the Reptilians can't go to fifth. They can only go to fourth.
Okay.
And so we can get the planet to raise vibration and have this ascension process. Once we get to fifth, we're safe from them. And so a lot of us starseeds volunteered to come here right now, right this time, to help raise the vibration enough to help Earth raise vibration, to get away from them, to create a totally different future.
Wow.
I know. It sounds crazy. It sounds wild.
It does, but it like doesn't, with like everything that we know about, like, well, like that we don't know about the quantum, but that we know like that it exists, and that it's not all like physics is shot. Like regular old physics has like been kind of flipped on its head. And people don't know, people don't know what to do with that, but it's very clear that we don't know nearly as much as we think we do, like, as science thinks that it knows. Like, I don't think I know that much anymore, but I used to.
Same. I've learned so much from talking to so many spirit guides that I'm just like, at this point, I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, whatever comes through, I'm like, yeah, I know nothing. I just assume, like, I know nothing. I'm just learning stuff as I go along. I don't think I'm an expert on anything. I'm just here to give the little bit of information I get, and like,
Well, and that's what makes you like a genuinely good, you know what I'm saying, person for that, and a genuinely, good teacher and good person, because it's like when you get to that point where you think you know everything, is kind of where like you don't evolve anymore. Like you do, but like not.
Right. When you just start connecting to source, though, I feel like if you have a really strong source connection, it's really hard to be in that ego and be like, I know everything. I'm the best. It's so counterintuitive, because source is so like, we're all connected, we're all the same, we're all equal. Everyone's a reflection of you. It's just, that's why I'm always really hesitant of spiritual leaders like Teal Swan. Like, she said in interviews that like, I've never met anyone as advanced spiritually as me. If I met them, sure, but I'm just like, okay, girl, that's where you got to be like, oh, I'm a little bit worried about you, because like, I just don't think they're seeing reality as how it really is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's so easy to get carried away with the human ego, and how spirituality is kind of taken, like a leap in the viral whatever the fuck. So like, it's hard, because it's just, you get misconceptions, there's misinformation, and confusion about so much.
And there's a lot of purposely made confusion in the spiritual community.
That's another thing I wanted to ask about.
like all the 3-letter agencies, I'm sure you can imagine what they are. The government's 3-letter agencies. They have all these campaigns to put out purposeful disinformation, to like purposely disinform and confuse and make the spiritual community fight with itself. That's all they want to do. They just want to put me against you. That's why they run politics. They're always like, me versus you. They don't want us to come together, because together we're very powerful.
Right, exactly. As a collective, we manifest the world. So, like, if collectively we believed that we could change it or raise its vibration, it's gonna
$1,000,000,000,000%.
Yeah, and they know that, and like they see we're starting to understand it, and like you're right, and that's why it's like there's that discernment, and like using your own intuition and your own discernment, because like you're smart, like we're all smart enough to know, like, if something sounds off, you should probably research it more.
100%. And like, I always tell people, like, even if you don't vibe with what I say, sit with it, that's fine. If it doesn't resonate with your spiritualness, that's fine. I'm just here my opinion. And so I listen to a lot of different spiritual people, like people you'd probably be surprised about, where I'm just like, okay, I'm just down to hear your opinion, and like,
I agree. I have had a lot of different I've always kind of been like that. Like I like to see everything from like each perspective. It's probably also because I'm a Libra. Like I see everything from everybody's perspective, and it's been like that since school. Like I've always kind of gotten along with everybody, and it's not even like really like it used to be people pleasing, but now it's more like I just want that understanding because I know that I don't know it all, and like everyone has a reason that they have that perspective because of their like experience, their life experience, and what they might have something to offer, like you have something if I'm open to learning, maybe they'll be open to learning, you know what I'm saying? And that's where it's like you get past the point of like arguing about the differences and actually coming together because like the differences are beautiful, and that's what they're worried about. But we'll get through it.
I think we've already won. I think it's just inevitable. Honestly.
I do too. And that's what I was gonna ask about, like propaganda around like things like star seeds or like just like the confusion that they're trying to send out. Like, is there any way that we can like not stop it, but just help bring clarity to the collective at all? I mean,
I'm gonna ask Raina because I think she wants to answer instead.
Cool.
It is not wise to waste your attentions on others who are not in your same perception or vibrational experience. The best thing you can do, essentially. Sorry, sometimes if I let her, she'll just go in a straight channel and I talk in a robot voice, but I was so
That's
weird.
Totally fine. No, I love it.
Are you sure? She talks weird. She talks. All right, fine. It is wasted energy to try and convince or convey your message to those who are unable to receive it. You have control over you and your vibration, and that in itself is powerful and enough. You can create very effective change by just focusing on your intention and vibration. It is not of your benefit to give energy of your focused attention to those opinions that do not resonate within you. Your energy is best spent serving your intention that you are broadcasting widely through your planet. Do not think that your impact is insignificant. It is always significant. Okay, all right, I'm just gonna leave her with that.
That was crazy. I know it's a lot for you to chat. I was like, oh wait, she's probably tired. No, thank you. That was beautiful. Wow.
I'll usually do it publicly because I do weird stuff and talk in a robot voice sometimes.
Oh, I get it. I can, if you want, I can keep that private. I totally don't mind, but
It's fine. I
cool.
need to get more comfortable with doing it more publicly.
It's so cool. That's how channeling is. Like, that's how Bashar is. It's like, like that's how it's beautiful. Like, I'm getting chills. Like, that was so amazing. Like, I have so much respect. What'd you say?
Raina's way smarter than me. That's why if I can't answer something, I'm so lucky I can just have her ask her.
Yeah,
I
it's
even
beautiful.
do that. I teach psychic mentorship courses, and I couldn't do it without Raina, to be honest, because sometimes my students ask me things where I'm like, Vanessa doesn't know. I don't know. And I ask Raina, and she's just the most fire answers, and I'm like, oh my God, Raina, you're amazing. I love you so much.
Yes, yeah, that like really, really hit.
Her answer, though, I think she was just implying that I guess it doesn't make sense to waste your energy on people who it's not their path, kind of, to be on this wavelength. And she just was she's really just emphasizing me with so much love because, like, I'm speaking her words, but I can feel her telepathic communication. She's just emphasizing that we're so powerful. Just you being one beacon of light, sharing your perspective of love and light is so much more powerful than any naysayer.
Yes, that's what I felt. Like it really like that made like a lot of sense, and it really that helps a lot with like that the human ego like questioning, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? So that really, wow. Thank you. Okay, well,
Raina's been channeling just through me a lot more. I feel like I should be doing more TikTok videos of it. I just get really self-conscious.
well, if you want, like, I mean, we can talk about it because there's gonna be a lot of this podcast that I'm gonna want to like make the clip for the TikTok. But like, we can like, I'm gonna rewatch it and stuff. And I have a couple more questions I want to ask. Well, I mean, I'll ask you one more question, and then we can stop and we can start again at a new one.
No worries. I have my students in an hour, so we have time until then.
Oh, okay, perfect. Then, oh, cool. Okay, because I don't want to keep you, but I can talk forever. But yeah, I want to like take a clip from some part. I can do any of it if you want. I can do the channeling, but I don't have to.
Whatever you feel called to, it's fine.
Okay.
I wouldn't do it. I just it's just my own thing. So I'm like, it's because everyone I do it for, they're like, this is so cool. You should post this more. And I'm like, I should.
Well, take your time when you feel like you'll know when, you know what I mean? You'll know when you need to post.
I've done it. When the Pleiadians come through with a really important message, I will do it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and that's when it matters the most too. And like, right. That's so amazing. So what would you suggest for like a simple exercise to connect with your past lives? Like for someone like me or anyone.
Yeah, so that's what I'm teaching my students right now, actually.
Cool.
I would connect to the Akashic Records. Very easy. There's so many classes that are like, oh, you have to do all this like stuff. You don't. I don't think you do. Just ask to connect to your guides, ask to connect to your Akashic Records, get to a meditative state where you feel relaxed and you can kind of make your mind blank. And then ask your guides, all you have to do, connect to your records, meditate, get to a good vibrational state. Ask your guides to show you a significant past life and then just be open to whatever comes through. What I usually tell my students is when I first see a past life, first they show me where it is, usually. So they'll show me a map and I'll zoom in and I'll be like, okay, this feels like England, this feels like Africa. And then I'm like, okay, are they male or female? Then I see male or female, and then I see the person. And then from there, I just kind of let it evolve to be like, okay, show me the scene, show me what's going on. Honestly, I think everyone can do it. You just need to try. You just need to let yourself. You just need to go for it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and then being open to whatever is relevant, like you say, like whatever you need to know at that time.
Exactly. And honestly, I have my students do it 2 weeks into my course. I'm like, I'm just going to walk you through it. I'm just going to push you. Just try it. Give it a shot. And it's funny because whenever I'm like, show me a significant past life, I can see it. And I usually write down my notes, the details, and I'm like, okay, you tell me what it is. And then I send them a picture of what I wrote down to be like, you're spot on. You killed it. You're male. You have kids. And I like to, because everyone, honestly, I feel like everyone has psychic abilities. You just don't push yourself. And it's nice to have a mentor to stand there and be like, you're right, to give you that confidence. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. I believe that too. It's like a working out a muscle. If you go to the gym.
You should take my course.
I know.
Psychic, honey. Also, you're medium like me.
I know. I should take your course. I've been
if you ever feel called to it, I always like if it calls to you, that's fine.
I've been thinking about doing like something to like I said, like I don't know if I need to see a shaman quite yet. I think like the ayahuasca and stuff maybe like a year from now. Like I feel like that's more realistic, like next summer. But I think like right now that could be very helpful. Yeah, of course.
I have one in November if you feel called.
Yeah, I will. I'm gonna check it out.
It's a month-long course, and it's fun because we do one-on-ones every week for like 45 minutes an hour. And we go through like my lessons and stuff, but then I can just read for you. We can talk to your guides. We go through your records. We like clear blocks that block you from your psychic stuff. We do all kinds of fun stuff if you're interested. At
Yes.
the end of my month course, all of my graduates can fully read for people as a psychic if they want to. I guarantee everyone can. By the end
Mm,
of the course, everyone's reading for everyone and they're killing it.
that sounds so amazing.
I
Oh my
know.
God.
To be honest, I can't even take credit. Raina wrote the whole course. Raina writes the course. She answers questions I can't answer. But like, don't get me wrong. Like, I have a lot of experience as a working psychic for 2 years, and I have a lot to say.
Yeah.
But a lot of it comes from other people's spirit guides.
Right.
But Raina's so nice because she intuitively, every student's kind of different. They have different psychic gifts. So every session I have, every one-on-one I have with my students is totally different because Raina will go through and she'll be like, this is going to work for them. This is going to work for them. And I find a way to make it work for everyone. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think that's so awesome. That's like really, really incredible that you can like facilitate it. Like without you, like she wouldn't be able to teach them. So like you're essential.
I can, don't get me wrong, but having Raina as well, I'm like, between the two of us, well, you know what's so funny
I'm
is
saying like
Raina,
without you, your body, Raina wouldn't be able to teach them. Like you're essential. You.
it's funny about Raina, she feels like a different person than me, but she's a past life of mine.
I had a feeling. I was like, is that like her higher self or because it just
Yeah,
sounds just like you.
Raina's a higher self of mine, and that's why I think we have such like a crazy connection. I think especially the reason why we're so linked telepathically, where I can just talk to her conversationally, is when I left the Pleiades, I put my body in stasis. I was a middle-aged Pleiadian woman. I was a grandmother. I had an adult son with two little girls, and I left my body in stasis, and I was Raina. And
Oh.
they
Okay.
escorted my light body into a body that was suitable on Earth. And so I'm still, even when I pass away from this life, I'm going to go right back. I'm going to wake up in that pod in the Pleiades and go back to my Pleiadian life.
Wow.
So that's
Yeah,
why I think I
that's
have so much access to Raina.
yeah, that's incredible. Like that's that I remember that story and I just think that's so like that's mind-boggling and it's just so beautiful to think about like it like anything, literally anything is possible. Like it
I,
really
I,
beyond
I've
like the
never,
word anything.
you know what's so funny is when I first started doing readings like 2 years ago, I never studied under anyone. I wasn't like super into anything. Um, I I met a dragon spirit guide for the first time, and I was like, "Oh shit, people can have dragon spirit guides." I didn't know. I had no idea. I've met a lot of fae spirit guides. I've met a mermaid spirit guide. I have met all kinds of spirit guides, and it's funny until I experienced myself. I heard people talk about it. I was like, "Okay, maybe." Like, I don't know, but like I met them, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is totally real. Absolutely." You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it's hard to wrap your head around like the idea of like that it's real, like it's the idea of like dragons and like all of it. Like but
Yeah.
fairies I've also always been into too. I've always had a very like love fairies. And it's like funny because I've always been super colorful and all of that. So it's like it's very interesting to like all of the connections. I also wanted to ask you about like because you said like Delirian, like is that like a cedar race? Because I wanted to ask you what the meaning of that like
Right.
is, if you could explain that.
So according to Raina, the human genome, because Lyrans are humans, Pleiadians are humans, Andromedans are humans. They just evolved differently over many years.
All right.
The human genome was originally started in Lyra, and it was seeded here from an older culture from another galaxy. So all life in this galaxy was seeded here by the seeders. And so the humans on Lyra, who we look extremely similar to, they look a lot like the Pleiadians. Because they're honestly Pleiadians. I call them Lyran Pleiadians. Same race. Not a lot of different cultural evolvement. Very similar. There are Lyrans on Lyra that looked more like what we think of as Pleiadians. There are Lyrans that look more like humans. Like Melinda Trump looks perfectly like a tall Lyran. Taal. They have brown hair. There are the Ahel Pleiadians, which are blonde, which is from Era, where I come from. Little bit wider eyes, very Scandinavian look, big Scandinavian eye, like looking eyes.
Right.
And then there's ones that evolved and genetically modified themselves to look a little bit more feline, which is where we get the feline larynx. But what's funny is they're still humans. They could still mate with an Ahel or a tall Pleiadian and make babies. They're still humans. They just altered themselves to have feline features. So they came from a bunch of different races, which are the cedar races, which we're not super familiar with. The Patal, which is the name the Tal get their name from, the Patal, the Agoni. There's a bunch of cedar races that mix genetics, and they like to do experiments. So they kind of made the human genome that we experience from their human genome. So we look a little bit different than them, actually.
Wow. Yeah, that's very interesting. Like I don't know, it's just crazy to think about how much humans still question, like, even if Atlantean times, like, if anything came before what there's evidence of, and like that just kind of blows my mind.
Well, it's been
That, like,
on
what?
purpose. It's been suppressed
Right.
on purpose, so we don't
Right.
remember this ancient knowledge, you know?
Exactly.
I actually think Egypt goes back thousands and thousands of years more than they say it does, because I've seen so many past lives that when Atlantis fell, a lot of those people who survived ended up going to Egypt. And so there was these post-Atlantean cultures, pre what we think of as like modern Egyptian culture.
Wow.
People, I honestly think it goes back thousands of years, to be honest.
It makes sense. And they're trying to like destroy stuff in Egypt, like, because people are starting to wake up and they're gonna be thinking the same thing that you are, like, especially people who have past lives that that like I went through that and have that connection. They're gonna make that connection too, right? Wow. What are your thoughts on quantum entanglement and spirit guides? Because I had this idea, like, how our guides can be like more than one place at once, and quantum entanglement is about like two particles that are like entangled, they're from the same essence but in two places at once. Is that kind of like the same idea?
I'm actually I have my own thoughts, but I'm gonna let Raina answer because she wants to answer. Her answer's probably gonna be better. Our awareness of quantum mechanics in this current society is very limited because we usually put too much emphasis on the physical, third dimensional vibration, and we do not consider the other dimensional vibrations. Much of quantum physics is slightly, hold on. Much of quantum physics lightly touches on truths, but does not consider the full broad perspective. We have a very tiny perspective of the whole picture. Spirit guides are beings, just as we are. They are a facet, an expression of a bigger part of the soul consciousness that they are a piece of. Much like in this current expression of your soul, you are a small piece of the full expression of your soul. Your perception of time comes into play. Your soul has DNA. You quantumly vibrate at a similar rate to the sorry.
No, don't be sorry. This is so
There's
cool.
such big concepts.
Right? Yeah, this is pretty deep.
The question was of quantum physics and quantum resonance. Anything that is your perfect vibrational resonance, you will resonate with. That is how particles are able to fully resonate with each other. They hold the exact same frequency. Time and space is irrelevant because When you hold the exact same frequency, you resonate through any time and space. Time and space is an illusion. Your soul and your body both contain a certain vibrational resonance. Your soul will always contain a certain vibrational resonance. Your body, in addition, adds to that vibrational resonance. The actual totality of souls, I can answer the rest of this. Okay, so Raina's explaining this to me. The actual totality of your soul is huge. When you're experiencing an incarnate life, you only have a tiny piece of who you are. And that's kind of how you're able to have like past life incarnations and stuff. Your soul's so big, it's fine. You can have all these different little expressions because time doesn't matter. It's all happening at once.
Parallel, right?
Yeah.
It's like parallel lives. I've heard that term.
I hope she answered that. I feel like I was just repeating myself.